this is the daily message for June 26th. Today we're going to start the actual course material. The material for this course has been broken into 3 sections, Module 1, Module 2, and Module 3. We'll be working in Module 1 over the next 2 weeks. Now Module 1, if you've taken a statistics course before, is probably different than what you've seen in other statistics courses. In Module 1, we're actually not going to focus on any statistical analysis that you may have seen in the past. Instead, Module 1 is all focused on inference. And so what do I mean by inference? Inference is basically the conclusions that we reach based on the information that is presented to us. And in statistics, this idea of inferential reasoning is very important. And the reason for this is we have to be very careful about the conclusions that we reach based on the information that we're given. And so this module is going to be all focused on about how we make inference and why we need to be careful about when making inference. Today's work, we're going to start out by looking at ways that information is presented to us, especially in news articles and other popular sources, and then looking at some particular ways that information has been presented, the inference that is made from that information. And what you're going to find today is sometimes the way the information presented, the information can technically be correct, but the way that it's presented causes incorrect inference. And so what you're going to look at is first going to be 2 content videos. And you'll notice that these are made to go along with your workbook. And so you'll watch those first. And then next, your first assignment is actually going to look at some news stories and some other ways that information is going to be presented. And what you're going to find is the information everything that is said is true, but it causes very incorrect inference. And so the first assignment you're going to do is going to look at a news article that claims that there's a flooding of cocaine use on playgrounds. And so that's going to be the title of an article, and you're going to look at that article, and then you're going to dig a little bit deeper and see if that initial inference that you made was true. And then hopefully what you're going to do is write a better headline for that article, one that presents the information in a true way and also a way that makes the inference a little bit easier to gain and a better picture of what's actually happening there. Next, you're going to look at you're going to look at a graph, and you're also going to look at another news article. And again, the information that's presented there is true, but it's the manner in which it's presented that causes incorrect inference. Now, one of the pieces that you're going to look at is going to talk about the difference between what's called absolute and relative percentages. And so I want to take a moment and talk about the difference between those 2 things before you work on that assignment. So suppose that I have created a new group on campus, and let's say that I've created a club and it's a knitting club. So people in my group are going to learn how to knit, and my group has 100 members. And if I look at the percentage of that group that are currently seniors, and I find that 10 of the people in my group, so 10 out of the 100 are seniors, that would mean that 10% of my group are seniors, and that 10% is what we call an absolute percentage. So we've looked out of the total and we found the percentage of them that are seniors. So that's an absolute percentage. That's also known as an absolute risk when we're talking about the percentage that have an adverse health effect, and that's what the actual article is going to look at. Now suppose that I held this group next year, and next year I find that 20 of the members, again I have 100 members, but now 20 of the members are seniors. So now 20% of my group are seniors. And again, this 20% is what we call an absolute percentage, because I'm looking out of the whole group and I'm seeing the percentage of them that are seniors. So my first group had 10 seniors, 10%, that was an absolute percentage. And my second group had 20 seniors, or a 20%, which was again an absolute percentage. So now we can talk about what are called relative percents. Relative percents look at the change from one time period to another. So notice in my first group I had 10 seniors. In my second group I had 20 seniors. In other words, the number of seniors from group to group doubled. Or we could say it was a 100% increase. This 100% is what we call a relative percent. It's relative between the 2 years. So when you get to the article that's talking about contraceptives in the first assignment, that's what it means by absolute versus relative percents. And the article that the workbook is going to direct you to is going to explain a little bit more about the difference between absolute versus relative percents. And like I said a little bit ago, when it says absolute relative percents, that's the same thing as saying absolute versus relative risk. The second assignment you're going to look at is going to look at what we call misplaced decimal points. So if you'll remember back in high school, probably in your high school science class, your teacher was probably really emphasized that every time you wrote a number that you placed units on that number, and you thought, well, why is this important? Well, it ends up that placing units on numbers are very important, and the reason for this is by placing these units, we know the exact amount. Otherwise, we may have what's called a misplaced decimal. So one of the videos you'll watch, I posted a little video called Verizon Math. And so that is a real video where a customer has called in, and you probably saw that there was some disagreement between him and the customer service rep. And this is because the customer service rep did not keep those units of measurement on there correctly and performed a misplaced decimal point, which caused incorrect inference. So the second assignment you look at today, every answer or every problem exhibit there is going to involve a misplaced decimal. So keep that in mind while you're looking for answers. Your answer should involve a misplaced decimal point. Your job is to figure out why there's a misplaced decimal point. In other words, can you show exactly where the misplaced decimal point occurred? And so that's going to be how you want to do those. Now for the exhibit 2, which is the one that talks about the New York Times article and the letter to the editor, I've written a little comment in the instructions there on Blackboard to help you through that one, because that one can be tricky. You kind of want to think of it in 2 parts. Now with that being said, I do really want to emphasize that every time you go to do the assignments, take the time to read the instructions very carefully. Some parts of the instructions are going to be the same from assignment to assignment, but on some of the assignments I've told you to only do part of them. Maybe I only want you to do the second half or maybe the first half. And then also I'll give you hints if I think there's a question that I've noticed students have had problems with in the past. So again, for today's work, your real goal is you're looking at the way the information is presented and how the way the information is presented can affect inference. And that's what the content videos you watch today are going to talk and elaborate more on. So as always, if you have any questions of the assignments, please feel free to use that discussion board. I'll be watching it all day. I'm happy to post. And then if you have anything else that you need to discuss via email, please feel free to send me an email. Have a good day.